the table.
Overnight, federal agents looking for any clues into the person or group responsible for the potential bombs. Prominent Democratic figures.
Our president cannot escape special scrutiny. He is at the head of the hate parade.
The left shouldn't just be angry about this when they're silent about attacks on conservatives.
But GOP lawmakers are now questioning the FBI's opening of the Russia probe after interviewing George Papadopoulos on Capitol Hill.
The facts are astounding that we would allow this type of investigation without any real solid foundation of collusion.
Niece
singing.
Yeah, right now.
Haley.
Yeah.
She loves herself.
We just love that it is Friday. TGIF.
That's right.
Goodness, it's Fox.
Right, and we're going to we have a huge show. If it's anything like the last few days, things are going to break, be unscripted, that we cannot follow because of some of the peril we've been seeing at the border and within the mail rooms across America.
We're going to tell you about those devices that were sent. 10 total. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, let's talk about the caravan and what's happening down on the border. The DHS Secretary, Kristen Nielsen, she sat down with Martha McCallum yesterday. And this is what she said. Here's a piece of that interview.
What we intend to do, and I think the president's been very clear, if you do not have a legal right to come to this country and you come as part of this caravan, you will be returned home. This caravan cannot come to the United States. They will not be allowed in. They will not be allowed to stay.
Who's going to stop them?
We will stop them. Everything is on the table. We're continuing to work with the government of Mexico, who's been a great partner. We're continuing to work with the other countries to prepare to receive those of their citizens back. Everything is on the table to make it very clear that we have a sovereign right to protect our citizens.
Okay, so if everything is on the table, this morning there's word that the president could actually use an executive order where he uses Section 212 of the Immigration Act, which is the federal statute, where he would declare that some of the people who are in this caravan would be ineligible for asylum because it would be, quote, contrary to the national interest and detrimental to the interests of the United States. That is the same legal authority that the president used during the travel ban. Of course, it was immediately challenged in court. This would probably too. It has not been finalized. It is just one of the ideas under consideration right now. An executive order to stop them and deny them amnesty.
I'm still under the naive hope that Democrats would see the wisdom in sending a message that you can't just storm our borders, because if you allow this 4,000 or 8,000 in, 80,000 will be coming shortly. So that's why Secretary of Defense Mattis is going to be scrambling 800 U.S. troops immediately to the border, we believe. And there's going to be a mix in there of doctors and physicians because a lot of these people are going to be in bad shape because they got about 1,000 miles to go to get to McAllen, 2,000 to get to San Diego, depending on where they want to go.
They said they'll be including a lot of doctors, you're right, and also engineers so that they can supply equipment and help with the labor projects. They're heading down there next week to prepare for all the migrants that are coming up in the coming weeks.
And the question is, how many are there? Remember, earlier this week, we were talking about it could be 10,000, it could be 4,000. Now, a credible estimate is there are 3,000. A lot of them have already sought a refuge and asylum in Mexico. A lot of them have dropped out. A lot of them hopped on a bus and went back home.
Some are going to eventually be able to hop on the famed Beast train and get forward, although there's going to be Mexican authorities there to stop them. You know, those shots of them holding on to the top?
Yep.
That's the train that could expedite their trip.
All right, that takes us to a Fox News alert. Right now, thousands of migrants are preparing to march north toward the southern border.
All right, Griff Jenkins is now watching. He's there. He's traveling with the caravan in Mexico, right near the Guatemalan border, Griff.
Well, guys, good morning. We're about 120 miles north of the border. As you see, hundreds, if not thousands, of migrants already on the march. We're in a small town just north of Pijijiapan, and they're headed this way, likely on a trek towards Tijuana. But if you look behind me, let me just show you. This is one of the areas where they have started in that small town of Pijijiapan and moving northward. And, you know, I've been talking with them all morning about the fact that the president has been tweeting for them to turn around, that that the DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen saying that they will not be able to get across the border should they come, that they don't want them, but yet they said they do not want to deter themselves. In fact, when I talked about the president, a lot of these are from Honduras. I talked to one man from Honduras about 30 minutes ago about cutting off aid to Honduras. He said, listen, I left because the president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, is the problem. He's bad. And when you talk about cutting off aid, he said, doesn't matter to me because we never saw a dime of that aid because the president never let American aid get in there. And so what you have now is, as you just look here, large groups of people walking, hoping that they're going to get there, hoping that in some way they will be able to get to the border and claim asylum. Hi, hola, ¿habla inglés? ¿Dónde vas?
¿Ah?
¿Dónde vas?
De Honduras.
Honduras?
Sí.
Yeah. Sí, and ¿por qué está haciendo esto?
Porque por motivos de trabajo, que no hay trabajo en mi país.
¿Trabajo?
Sí.
Sí, gracias. No. Hola. So he's saying that he's looking for work. He's from Honduras. He wants work. And that's what we're hearing from everyone. Look, there's a woman with a child in a stroller pushing. And they do. Brian, as you said, they have, it's about 800 miles from here to McAllen, Texas, where I was earlier this week, but 1,600 miles to Tijuana. Now, one of the things that we're hearing is our producer here. We have a producer from Mexico City along with us who is wonderful, Lucina, and she's been talking to the Pueblos Sin Fronteras people, the organizers group. But one of the things we're learning is that some of this group may actually want to go to Mexico City and hold a protest outside of the U.S. Embassy there, which would be really a first and really escalate the politics of this. But from what we're learning and just talking to these people, we're hearing that it is largely headed towards possibly Tijuana on the track we're on now, guys.
What are they protesting? Why would they protest us in New York City? I mean, in Mexico City. All right. Griff.
It seems they're protesting the conditions in their countries, and as I talked to that one Honduras man, they're protesting their own leaders. Right. One of the things also, guys, when this trek usually happens with the caravan, they get on trains a little north of here in a town called Arriaga, about an hour away. But we're told by the officials here that the trains are not running right now, so this walk you're seeing is going to continue much farther north if they're going to get any help. They're jumping on every car, every bus they can. A lot of the locals helping them, guys.
Indeed. All right, Griff, thank you very much.
Griff was showing earlier when he was doing a live shot early this morning, there were church groups along the route so that when the migrants were walking north, they would stop and the church groups would provide food and clothes for them.
All right. Amazing live images. Meanwhile, another Fox News alert. The feds, that is to say, searching a post office facility in Florida overnight where perhaps several suspicious packages addressed to Democrats are believed to have been processed.
This as police review surveillance video taken outside of CNN's offices that could narrow the search for the bomber.
I think they're getting close. Todd Pyro tracking the latest developments live from the newsroom. Hey, Todd.
Hey, Steve, Ainsley, Brian, good morning to all of you. Right now, authorities are focused on a U.S. postal facility in Apalaca, Florida, that they believe some of the packages went through, although investigators would not say whether they believe the suspect or suspects were still in the state of Florida. Overnight, federal agents, along with Miami-Dade County Police, were actively working the scene, looking for any clues into the person or group responsible for the potential bombs, now numbering 10. As for possible evidence, a government official noted what appeared to be thick, dark electrician's tape on the bomb sent to former CIA Director John Brennan, with investigators hopeful the tape captured DNA, fiber, or fingerprints. There are also reports that law enforcement has surveillance video of the courier who dropped off the bomb package to CNN.
I can say with certainty that we will identify and arrest a person or people responsible for these acts.
As for why the bombs didn't go off, some experts have pointed to the lack of a triggering mechanism, suggesting they were never meant to explode in the first place. Guys, back to you.
All right, Todd, thank you very much. The Miami Herald is saying that at least one of the packages in question went through that giant Opalaca processing facility. It's the size of 5 football fields. There is no retail counter. It just takes all the mail from South Florida. They think it could be the package in question, probably the one that wound up at Debbie Was Wasserman Schultz office itself. Remember, it had been sent to Eric Holder, but that was the wrong address, and it got returned to Florida. And that, at least that one, went through that facility, according to federal authorities speaking to the Miami Herald this morning.
And some of the postmarks were missing. And then also former President Jimmy Carter was told to be on alert. Authorities, for some reason, believe that he could be a target as well.
Right. We'll see. I get the sense they're zeroing in on him. I cannot, or them. There's something going on. Meanwhile, 10 minutes after the top of the hour, Carly Shimke is fresh off doing her show with Rob, filling in for Jillian.
That's
great job.
Right. I asked to come back because I had so much fun last week.
All right,
You're
great.
always welcome. Well, good morning to you and everybody at home. And take a listen to this. A teenager busted by the FBI for allegedly trying to join ISIS. Agents arresting the 19-year-old at an airport in Columbus, Ohio, trying to fly to Kazakhstan. From there, the DOJ says he planned to sneak into Afghanistan for weapons and kidnapping training. Court records show he wanted to start the, quote, deadliest civil war on earth here in the U.S. And right now, emergency crews are searching the Atlantic Ocean for a missing plane. The small private jet disappeared while flying from South Carolina to the Bahamas. The Coast Guard says the pilot reported some type of emergency before losing contact on radar about 100 miles southeast of Charleston. It's unknown how many people were on board. And new questions over the start of the Russia probe after lawmakers interview former Trump campaign aide George Papadopoulos.
The facts that we're finding in here are astounding, that we would allow this type of investigation to be embarked upon without any real solid foundation of collusion.
Now, Papadopoulos discussed his interactions with key figures in the Mueller probe during a closed-door interview. He spent 2 weeks in jail after admitting to lying to the feds last year. Papadopoulos himself, he will join us live next hour. And a high school football player is going viral for his country rendition of the national anthem. Watch this. Before I'll say it again, he's going to get all the girls. Back to you guys.
Wait, he can sing and play?
That's right.
And he gave God the glory. Did you see at the end he did this?
The total package.
He is. He's a good guy.
All right. Carly,
Thanks,
thank
Carly.
you. Meanwhile, Congressman Marsha Blackburn is leading her Senate race with 11 days to go, and she says her opponent wants to roll out the welcome mat for that migrant caravan. Really? We're going to talk to Congressman Blackburn next.
And is another Clinton heading for Washington? What Chelsea Clinton just revealed about her future in politics.
For Senator from Tennessee, early voting now underway. The Real Clear Politics average has Republican candidate Marsha Blackburn leading by more than 6 points over her Democratic challenger, Phil Bredesen. So will that hold lead through Election Day? Let's talk to Republican Tennessee Congressman and Senate candidate Marsha Blackburn joining us right now from Nashville. Good morning to you, Congressman.
Morning.
Okay, so you're up right now. I know one of the contentious issues across the country is this caravan. And I know that you have referred to the caravan as an illegal alien mob. And your opponent, Mr. Bredesen, said Wednesday, a few thousand poor people aren't a threat to the United States security. Why did he say that? Because so many people are thinking, well, I'm not sure if they are, but we should be careful.
We should be careful. There's a right way and a wrong way to come to the United States, and this is the wrong way. You don't come as an invading force, and that is what we are seeing with this caravan. And there is an opportunity for those that need asylum to apply for asylum, but to come as an invading force is not how people should come to this country. You should come wanting to abide by the rule of law. And I will tell you, if my opponent had his way, he would be down there at the border, welcoming them, giving them driving certificates, which is what he did when he was governor of Tennessee, gave out 51,000 illegal aliens driving certificates, valid state-issued IDs. And we've seen video of his campaign spokesperson encouraging illegal aliens to sign up to work in his campaign. He'd probably be trying to get them to vote. So there is a big difference of opinion on how you address individuals that are seeking to come to this country.
Well, Congressman, what do you make of the president's suggestion? It's in a number of the major papers today that he may use an executive order essentially to declare some migrants would be ineligible for asylum going forward, to stop them.
We know that when you look at this group that is moving toward our southern border, that you have those that are in gangs, you have terrorists that are there. And Steve, I've been in those reception centers on the border. One day in a reception center, there were people from 23 different countries. So I support General Mattis and the call for putting some troops on the border to secure that border. And then also I support any actions and the actions that we would see coming forth that would prohibit those that would seek to do us harm from coming in this country. I've got to tell you, spending time with sheriffs here in Tennessee, with some of our county mayors, they will tell you if we do not enforce that border, if we let those in that are in gangs, that are traffickers, drug traffickers, sex traffickers, local law enforcement, end up on the front lines. It makes every town a border town.
Well, I tell you what, Congressman, we tried to get your opponent on to talk to him about the issues, but apparently they have declined our invitation. All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Congressman Marsha Blackburn, running for Senate in Tennessee. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. 20 minutes after the top of the hour, the nationwide manhunt for the mail device sender ramping up, and now authorities are honing in on the state of Florida and a postal facility there. Up next, an FBI agent's inside.
Sometimes
All right, some quick Friday morning headlines for you. First up, Justice Brett Kavanaugh's accuser, Julie Swetnick, and her lawyer, Michael Avenatti, could face criminal charges. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley is calling on the Department of Justice to investigate, accusing both of them of lying. Swetnick was the third woman to publicly accuse Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh during his confirmation hearing of sexual misconduct. The FBI found no evidence of wrongdoing, as you have heard. And people caught on camera ripping up a Republican candidate's political signs and throwing them into the traffic. The New Jersey Republican tweeting this video saying, "This is what a desperate Bob Menendez campaign does before a debate."
I don't care. Y'all don't live here, bro.
Well, we reached out to Democratic Senator Bob Menendez's campaign for comment. We're still waiting for him to call us back. All right, Ainsley. Brian.
All right, thank you, Steve.
He's definitely not voting for Huggins.
All right, now to a Fox News alert. There's a nationwide manhunt. It's underway after a 10th suspicious package was found. So what complications do authorities face in apprehending the person or persons responsible?
I'm going to ask a specialist here. He's a former FBI special agent, former U.S. Army Ranger, and founder of the Jenkins Group, Chad Jenkins. Chad, it looks like a lot of people are focused now in Florida at certain hubs. We have other places to look in Maryland, New York, and Los Angeles. Where would you go?
Well, I think with the FBI going and looking at this Opa-locka facility, we can be assured that there is some connectivity down here in Florida, so it's a full court press there. Got to remember that the devices themselves still are the treasure trove of information, not only for the forensics, for the latent prints, and for the DNA, but also because of all the subcomponents. Remember, it was 0 for 10 of any of these going off. So all of those subcomponents, looking at where they were procured, where they were acquired, and breaking those down. So it's still a multi-tiered effort, full court press by the FBI and all the federal components investigating this right now.
Chad, what do you make about some of these packages missing their postmarks?
Well, that could be, using the courier service. Got to look at the one that was delivered to CNN. Again, that goes into where we could dump cell phone towers as well. If Soros and the CNN package were both delivered by couriers, now you do the cell phone dump, cross those numbers, see if there's any positive hits. And like I said, there's so many different avenues to pursue this investigation. Right. Believe me, the FBI is doing all of that.
Obviously, politics plays a role. There's one theme. These people are all critics of President Trump. You say that you cannot rule out a false flag operation. What leads you to believe that?
Well, it's just 0 for 10 on any of these devices going off. We still have not gotten concrete information from law enforcement whether any of these devices actually were rigged, completely ready to go. So you can't rule out those two options. We really have two primary. One, we have the worst right-wing bomb maker in history, or we have a false flag operation where it's a left-wing type of operation to create hysteria and to play on the hearts and minds of those who would be independents or undecideds come the midterm.
Yeah, we still don't know. We are being told that there is no trigger mechanism on all 10 of them, so they were never intended to explode, it appears. They were sent through this U.S. Postal Office in Apalaca, Florida, as you mentioned. We're hearing different reports that maybe one of them went through that postal service, and then we've also heard reports that all 10 of them did. Do you know the answer to that?
Do not, and I think that's where, Brian, you earlier stated, I think this investigation is further along than the FBI and all the federal law enforcement agencies are leading the public on, and that's because at the end of the day, the #1 goal is to go ahead and apprehend the individual or the suspects behind this investigation.
So are you saying there's a chance they do have the guy already?
No, I don't think they have the guy. I think they're a lot closer at honing in than what we're getting in the media right now.
And some people have told me that if they do think they have the guy, they'll watch him to see where he goes before they quickly grab them. In many cases, if they don't feel he's an imminent threat, to see if this is to see if there are layers to this operation. Correct?
Well, I would think at this point in time, whether it's a hoax or a real device, that's out the window right now. I think the imminent threat has already been crossed because any of these devices, if they could go, we don't want that. So there's enough evidence against this individual that if the Bureau has him, they will sweep him up quick.
Just to see who else who might be involved. Chad Jenkins, thanks so much.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Well, earlier you saw Griff Jenkins with the migrant caravan as it's making its way through Mexico. So what's being done at the border to stop them? We will ask one of the top agents on the ground coming up next.
Plus, many Democrats blaming President Trump for the rhetoric behind these mail bombs. But remember when they said things like this?
I want to send the military to the White House to get him.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Diamond and Silk. Here shortly to discuss this.
This girl is on fire.
Back with the Fox News, President Trump reportedly considering an executive order to close the southern border to the migrant caravan.
All right, it would stop most, if not all, of the migrants from entering the U.S. and claiming asylum. But we already have 1,000 entering a day anyway.
The White House considers this a matter of national security as the Pentagon plans to send 800 troops to our southern border to confront the migrant caravan. Let's bring in Manuel Padilla Jr. He is the Chief Patrol Agent, Sector Chief for the Rio Grande Valley, U.S. Customs and Border Protection. He joins us today from San Antonio. Sir, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Brian.
It's Steve. Brian's here along with Ainsley as well.
I'll be talking later.
That's right. Mr. Padilla, it sounds like the White House is considering an executive order where the president uses his authority under Section 212 essentially to declare some migrants ineligible for asylum. How would that work?
Well, the way it would work is if you look at the population that we're seeing right now growing exponentially and very rapidly, our family units and unaccompanied children, primarily from countries other than Mexico, and specifically in the Northern Triangle, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. If you see this population, we're actually looking at about 64% of our apprehensions right now falling in this population. And what happens is we process them, and then they get released into the communities and remain here in our communities for 3 to 5 years before they see an immigration judge. The key point here is that once they see an immigration judge, 80% or more are denied the asylum claims that they present. So in very short explanation is that a lot of these people do not have the case for asylum to be approved at the end of the process.
We should be able to do, right now we're being discriminated against Mexicans, to be honest, because it seems like Central and South Americans are getting preference over Mexicans. So we solved the Mexican illegal immigration issue, but we give a favoritism to Central American issues, and it all dates back to 2008, 2009. You guys, your hands are tied in this process.
Yes, every time we have a situation where we catch and release, that emboldens that population, that demographic, to continue growing and growing. I will tell you that because of the practice where we do not have the ability to return these people to their home countries, that has instigated this caravan to an extent. People do not believe that we will return them back, and we have to absolutely return them back if they come this way and illegally enter the United States.
Agent Padilla, when you look at the crowds and you hear upwards of 10, 12,000, other statistics show 4,000 in this migrant caravan. We don't know at this point exactly. But when the Pentagon says they're going to send 800 troops down, I'm sure it's helpful, but is that enough?
Well, yes, we're seeing we're seeing about 2,000 apprehensions a day right now without the caravan. And my sector alone, yesterday or the day before yesterday, we apprehended well over 800 people. And we're averaging very high numbers. That's without the caravan. So as the caravan starts moving in, we're already preparing for it. We're planning with our interagency partners, with the local leaders, with non-government organizations. We will manage this situation. The key is that we have to be able to return these people home, or if we do not do that, we will see more caravans.
Mr. Padilla, isn't the problem really the law? Yeah. I mean, if you want to change the way it is, Congress has got to do it. And Republicans in Congress say, hey, look, we've been trying to get something done for a while. We've been trying to get some Democrats involved, and they simply will not change the law with us.
Absolutely. We have to give the men and women of the Border Patrol the tools that they need. Those two tools are very simple. One is we have to close these immigration loopholes in order to be able to process these people and return them home. The second one is, of course, the personnel, the technology, and the infrastructure to include the wall system in areas where we need them. The agents are working 24 hours a day, doing the best that they can, but at the end of the day, we need those two things.
Right, so the caravan is a public problem, but there's a quiet problem that you deal with every day. 800 to 1,000 apprehensions, and some of them walk right up to you and turn themselves in, and they're part of the process, and the ones that can't get processed get an ankle bracelet, which they break off, and they never show up again. It's a cycle that you're seeing on a daily basis, and it's up to Washington to fix it. You could only do so much.
Absolutely. That is exactly what's happening.
All right. Manuel Padilla, thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, let's head over to Carly. She has some more headlines for us. Hey, Carly.
Hey, good morning, guys. And let's get straight to this. A 2-year-old girl in Georgia goes to bed sick and wakes up paralyzed from the neck down. It's the latest case of AFM, a polio-like disease affecting children nationwide. Doctors still trying to figure out what causes the condition. So far, the CDC has reported 62 confirmed cases of AFM across 22 states this year. They're also investigating 93 other possible cases. And a police officer and a Good Samaritan team up to save 2 women from a burning car. The incredible rescue caught on body cam.
Be careful, be careful.
Well, the New Jersey officer and another man bending the car door back and slashing a seatbelt to help the passenger escape. They then pulled the driver out, who crashed into a tree. Luckily, no one was seriously hurt. And a Trump supporter claims he was fired over his political beliefs. Michael Dale suing the city of Indianapolis, where he worked as a supervisor in the Department of Public Works. Dale claims he lost his job in part for voicing political opinions and wearing a Make America Great Again hat. According to the court documents, he was fired over lack of leadership. And the Clintons can't seem to stay out of the spotlight. In a new interview, Chelsea Clinton reveals she isn't ruling out a political run, saying, quote, "I think if someone were to step down or retire and I thought I could do a good job and it matched my talents, I'd have to think if it's the right choice for me." Clinton went on to say her mother has not spoken with her about a potential 2020 presidential run. And those guys
So only if someone steps down or retires.
And I can get appointed by a family friend.
Right.
Fantastic.
It's a lot of
Family
ifs.
business.
Yep.
All right.
Taking the hard road.
Thanks, Carly.
All right. Meanwhile, on this Friday, Democrats, some of them, blaming President Trump's rhetoric for the reason somebody sent suspicious packages to a number of high-profile Democrats and critics of the president. But did they forget about comments like this?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
Okay, Johnny Depp. Diamond and Silk, here to call out the hypocrisy coming up next.
Plus, Missouri Attorney General and Republican Senate candidate Josh Hawley, Sebastian Gorka, and Michelle Bachmann. They're all here live.
Right.
Gorky and all.
To get to. Apparently, Justin Bieber has no idea how to eat a burrito. Social media lighting up over this photo posted to Reddit that shows the pop star chowing down on a burrito right down the middle on a bench in California. The singer's technique being called the burrito eating strategy that divided the nation. And trick or tinsel. Spooky trees are the latest seasonal trend. Some people can't wait to Christmas to deck the halls, choosing instead to put up their trees early, decorating them with pumpkins, spiders, webs, and even skulls. Look at that, guys.
All right. All right. Thanks, Carly. I'll thank you because Steve didn't. President Trump's rhetoric being blamed by the left for inciting violence and causing someone to send suspicious packages to prominent Democrats across the country.
But have they forgotten about this violent rhetoric?
I want to send the military to the White House to get him.
When they go low, we kick them.
Tyler and I are not afraid to do images that make noise.
Of course I want to punch him in the face.
Right. Yes. I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president? It's been a while.
Here with reaction to some of those sound bites, social media stars and Donald Trump supporters, Diamond and Silk, joining us from Diamond and Silk World Headquarters. Ladies, what do you make of the fact that we've heard a lot of voices in the last 72 hours or so where people say, well, yeah, of course somebody has mailed these suspicious packages, and you can blame Donald Trump for his rhetoric?
Well, you have to understand this is how the left operate. What they do is they try to place blame instead of blaming themselves. You know, when they didn't want to accept the outcome of an election, when they got in the streets and they marched with those little wussy hats on instead of marching to the polls, when they took and disparaged, disrespected this president, all of the things that they said, harassed Trump supporters, kicked them when they're low, bombed the White House. See, when whatever you put out is going to come back to you. That's right. And see, you have to understand this is merely fear tactics being used to cause chaos and confusion. And I need for people to rise above it, go to the polls, vote red, and vote Republican.
But ladies, you know, the President of the United States has used tough rhetoric.
Hold on. Because they have been doing this to our president since before he even became president. When he threw his hat in the ring, not even a day later, they started calling him all of these derogatory names. 99.99% of the left-wing news is negative towards this president and towards this country. And our president only hit you back 2 times whenever you hit him back the first time.
That's right.
the counterpuncher.
So, ladies, what's the solution to this? Because we've seen this political season, and I don't know if it's because I've never witnessed anything like this, but what's the solution to this? Because if you disagree with the left hates the right hates the left. What do we do as a country?
Well, see, we're going to have to stop hating each other.
That's right.
We're going to have to accept the fact that President Trump is your president.
Yeah.
He is the president of the United States, is what we're going to have accept. Once they can accept that, then we can move our country forward.
That's right.
The left is going to have to stop with this foolishness, chaos, confusion, fear. You put it in the minds of the American people. If you are really for the American people, if the left-wing media really cared about the American people, you would not cause chaos and confusion when it comes to news reporting.
That's right.
And yeah, a lot of people are seeing this during the Washington Post today. A lot of Democrats getting a little panicky because this reminds them a lot of 2016 because they expected so much and got so little.
Listen, and the president is winning. They only smear who they fear.
That's right.
He is winning. He's up in the polls. Democrats are voting in these midterm elections Republican. They switched their party to Republican.
That's right.
So listen, we're winning, you all, and they don't like that. So what they do is they manufacture stuff to create chaos, to distract, deflect. No, I need for you to pay attention. Go to the polls, vote red, vote Republican.
That's right. And don't let what's happening at the border to deflect you and distract you. What's happening at the border is manufactured. There's no way that 7,000 people going to get on the phone and say, hey, I'm going to march to the border. That's not happening. How are these people using the bathroom? How are these people getting food as they're marching to this particular border? How is it that we're able to send troops over to other countries to protect those other country borders, but people have a problem with President Trump sending troops to our border to protect America?
Well, we have sent a reporter down to the caravan to try to get some of those answers. Diamond and Silk, thank you very much for your point of view this morning.
Thank you for having us.
All right, straight ahead, former Trump campaign aide George Papadopoulos testifying behind closed doors on Capitol Hill about possible bias in the Justice Department. Was he indeed set up when it came to the Russia investigation? We'll discuss it, and he joins us live in studio to tell us what happened when he spoke to those leaders.
Plus, Keith Ellison's Republican opponent for Minnesota Attorney General now leading in the polls after trailing for most of the race. He will join us next to talk about what's behind his surge.
To get to. Apparently, Justin Bieber has no idea how to eat a burrito. Social media lighting up over this photo posted to Reddit that shows the pop star chowing down on a burrito right down the middle on a bench in California. The singer's technique being called the burrito eating strategy that divided the nation. And trick or tinsel. Spooky trees are the latest seasonal trend. Some people can't wait to Christmas to deck the halls, choosing instead to put up their trees early, decorating them with pumpkins, spiders, webs, and even skulls. Look at that, guys.
All right. All right. Thanks, Carly. I'll thank you because Steve didn't. President Trump's rhetoric being blamed by the left for inciting violence and causing someone to send suspicious packages to prominent Democrats across the country.
But have they forgotten about this violent rhetoric?
I want to send the military to the White House to get him.
When they go low, we kick them.
Tyler and I are not afraid to do images that make noise.
Of course I want to punch him in the face.
Right. I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president? It's been a while.
Here with reaction to some of those sound bites, social media stars and Donald Trump supporters, Diamond and Silk, joining us from Diamond and Silk World Headquarters. Ladies, what do you make of the fact that we've heard a lot of voices in the last 72 hours or so where people say, well, yeah, of course somebody has mailed these suspicious packages, and you can blame Donald Trump for his rhetoric?
Well, you have to understand this is how the left operate. What they do is they try to place blame instead of blaming themselves. You know, when they didn't want to accept the outcome of an election, when they got in the streets and they marched with those little wussy hats on instead of marching to the polls, when they took and disparaged, disrespected this president, All of the things that they said, harassed Trump supporters, kicked them when they're low, bombed the White House. See, whatever you put out is going to come back to you.
That's right.
And see, you have to understand this is merely fear tactics being used to cause chaos and confusion. And I need for people to rise above it, go to the polls, vote red, and vote Republican.
But ladies, you know, the President of the United States has used tough rhetoric.
Hold on.
Because they have been doing this to our president since before he even became president. When he threw his hat in the ring, not even a day later, they started calling him all of these derogatory names. 99.99% of the left-wing news is negative towards this president and towards this country. And our president only hit you back 2 times whenever you hit him back the first time.
That's right.
The counterpuncher.
So, ladies, what's the solution to this? Because we've seen this political season, and I don't know if it's because I've never witnessed anything like this, but what's the solution to this? Because if you disagree with the right, the left hates the right hates the left. What do we do as a country?
Well, see, we're going to have to stop hating each other.
That's right.
We're going to have to accept the fact that President Trump is your president.
Yes.
He is the president of the United States, is what we're going to have to accept. Once they can accept that, then we can move our country forward.
That's right.
The left is going to have to stop with this foolishness, chaos, confusion, fear. You put it in the minds of the American people. If you are really for the American people, if the left-wing media really cared about the American people, you would not cause chaos and confusion when it comes to news reporting.
That's right.
And yeah, a lot of people are seeing this during the Washington Post today. A lot of Democrats getting a little panicky because this reminds them a lot of 2016 because they expected so much and got so little.
Listen, and the president is winning. They only smear who they fear.
That's right.
He is winning.